Welcome to the Texas Conflict Coach radio program. If you've ever experienced or engaged in destructive or unresolved conflict, then you know it leads to broken relationships, distrust, and damaging results. Our program will help you manage and resolve conflict effectively with strategies, valuable resources, and support. Since 2009, our radio program hosted guest experts from around the globe sharing their perspectives, experiences, and expertise while giving you food for thought. If you can't listen live, then download and listen to any of our 300-plus podcasts in our library at texasconflictcoach.com. So sit back, relax, or join the conversation every Tuesday evening, or tweet us at TXConflictCoach.
Shopping on the internet has gone from something no one thought possible to now something everyone does. With the rise of social media, online reviews have balanced and regulated the relationship between customers and merchants. This and other creative uses of social media forces merchants to actively engage in partner dialogue with their customers. As a result, customers have a more significant role also in resolving customer complaints. Hello, I'm your guest host, Stephen Kotev, and joining me for today for our program entitled Retailers and Customers Resolving Customer Complaints as Partners is Zbynek Loebl. Zbynek Loebl is the founder and CEO of Youstice, a globally available tool for efficient resolving of shopping disputes. His experience with online dispute resolution originates from managing the development of ADR.EU, the European Online Dispute Resolution Center attached to the Czech Arbitration Court. Zbynek has over 11 years of knowledge regarding e-commerce law and practice gained as head of E-Economy Practice Group at Central European Advisory Group. Welcome to the program, Zbynek.
Hello, Stephen. Hello. I'm glad to be here, and many thanks for inviting me.
Well, it's our pleasure. I first have to apologize. I still try to do well with your name, and so please help me as we go through that. But I think, as folks can tell, sounds like you're not based in the U.S., which is where most of our listeners come, but we do have listeners from around the world. Tell us a little bit about where you're from.
Yeah, and your pronunciation of my name is perfect, Stephen, so don't worry about it. Well, actually, I come from Prague, Czech Republic, from Central Europe, and my company, Youstice, is also from Czech Republic. We also have many team members based in Bratislava, which is another Central European city. It's capital of Slovakia. But also we have colleagues from U.S., from France, Germany, from Latin America, actually. Yeah, please go ahead.
You have a global company then.
Yeah, well, basically, we are still something like a startup. We are just now entering past startup stage. But yes, what we do is we offer globally available service in with respect to resolution of small value customer complaints all over the world. So we actually we have teamed up with many retail stakeholders, not just customers and retailers, but also third-party expert institutions which engage in resolving customer complaints, but also trust marks, consumer organizations, or online marketplaces.
So, you were taking me to my natural question, which is, you're the CEO of Youstice. What is Youstice? And listening to it, it sounds like you're providing an opportunity for smaller merchants or vendors who have online services to have a way of resolving any problems they may have that's one of the first things that you do, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Youstice is actually easy to use multilingual web application, which enables customers and retailers to communicate and to effectively resolve post-purchase disputes. We are very simple. It's a very simple tool, and so both parties to a dispute, customers and retailers, benefit from a simpler, faster process. What is different with Youstice in comparison with other even CRM tools is that the customers are not only treated fairly, but they feel that they are treated fairly because their disputes are resolved by either mutual agreement with the retailer or by a neutral third party according to standard guidelines.
Well, and so this is what I wanted to ask a little bit more about. If I look at your name, I'm assuming that the name is you, as in you, the person, and then Justice, but the Justice is gone. So it's like you, Youstice, you do this. Is that sort of the idea behind the name and the concept for Youstice?
Yeah, absolutely, exactly, and it's really, if I would, Youstice really works in a very easy way. So retailers download Youstice as an easy plugin to their website. And then customers click on Youstice logo on the retailer's website, and they file their claims in just a few clicks. So, and they can do it using their mobiles, tablets, or PCs. They just select what is the issue. For example, that the recording arrived late, so one click. Second click, what would they wish as a resolution? For example, a discount of, I don't know, $30. Another click, then they attach document, and by another click, they are done with the complaint. And they do it in their language. So your listeners are mostly in U.S., but many U.S. retailers sell abroad. And also many other companies from outside the U.S. sell to United States. So if you imagine basically the customer, for example, from Central Europe, can file the claim and prepare the claim directed to a U.S. vendor in Central European language, and the U.S. vendor would receive it in English and would respond in English, and still the Central European customer will get it in his or her own language. And then basically the retailers, when they get the complaint, they either accept it or by a click, or reject it by a click. And they then prepare and file a counter proposal again by clicking on standardized prepared possibilities, prepared options. And in this way the parties very quickly negotiate. And if they cannot come to an agreement, the customers have always right to escalate the issue to a neutral third party for decision.
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat it back to make sure I understand. But the customer could go ahead and initiate it. They go to the Youstice site and they would go in and they would say, okay, I've got a problem with this small vendor. Something didn't happen. I'd like to have $30 as what I think should be how it should be fixed. And here's my documentation. This is what I ordered, and say it didn't arrive on time or something. And then that could be done in English. And if the purchase was done somewhere in Central Europe, that would then be translated into the European, say it's Czech. It was translated into Czech. The Czech vendor could go ahead and see what the complaint was, what the documentation is, what they're asking for, and then they can respond to it. And they can say, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do, or no, this isn't what I don't want to do that. And if the customer in the U.S. isn't happy, they have a chance to escalate it, to take it to somebody else. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. With the caveat that the translation is actually automatic. It's just what we developed, and we have been working on it for actually 2 years. We developed like a standardized module or standardized modules for typical retail issues, either online or offline. So most of the communication is really done by selecting from the predefined menu of options simply by clicking. So every party, if they want to add something in text, they can do that. But the process is streamlined so that the either party need not do that. They can, but need not do that. So then basically the text is or the communication is translated on the go because it is absolute majority of the communication is by using the standardized messages.
Okay, so the standardized options, and so for our listeners who maybe haven't done a lot with this, the idea here in what, you're not the only person who's done this. There's been others, but one of the things that you've spent your time in building Youstice is to provide an opportunity for people who make purchases online, a way for them to deal with that, especially if there's somebody smaller. So, as opposed to, I'm going to send an email and I'm going to wait for a response and, who knows what they're going to give me, you've got all the options put in place and all they have to do is click through them to use them. Is that right?
Yeah, it's correct. Absolutely. I think that this is one difference, and the second difference is that really Youstice does not resolve the disputes, but we interconnected the stakeholders. So, as I mentioned, we have cooperated with a growing number of third-party neutral institutions from all over the world, including U.S., which are engaged in resolving customer disputes as third-party neutrals. So, if the parties are not able to resolve their issues just by negotiation, and this is, of course, in majority of cases when the parties can resolve their issues by negotiation. But if exceptionally they cannot do that, the customers can escalate and have their dispute resolved by such a neutral third party. So this is another novel feature. And Youstice is not such an independent third party, but we provide technological platform to interconnect such neutral third parties and include them into play with the customers and retailers.
So I want to remind our listeners that you're listening to the Texas Conflict Coach Blog Talk radio program with your guest host, myself, Stephen Kotev. Today I'm joined by Zbynek Loebl, and we are discussing retailers and customers, resolving customer complaints as partners. So, Zbynek, let's talk about the escalation component. This third-party neutral, when they get involved, so a third-party neutral is just somebody who doesn't have an invested interest in the outcome. They're not saying, hey, I'm paid by the retailer and I want to make the retailer happy or the merchant happy, or vice versa. They're going to get paid by the customer. They're somebody who's sort of removed from that. So the U.S., well, let's go back to our example with the U.S. and the Czech. You've got the U.S. customer and the Czech merchant or vendor. They can't negotiate amongst themselves a solution. So Youstice says, hey, we're going to give it to this third-party neutral. So what would happen there once the third-party neutral is involved?
Yeah. Well, basically, then the third-party neutral will appoint actually a person, a neutral person, which will then again issue a streamlined decision. All is done again by few clicks, and it's a streamlined decision. So it's issued in a matter of few hours. Actually, it's only exceptionally in exceptional cases it takes a few days. So the decisions are very quick, and these are not arbitration decisions. This is it's more like a private contract or private agreement. So actually, the decisions are binding on the parties, including the retailers, because this is a condition for them to use this service. But it's independent on any common court process. So that means that the parties can independently go to a court or actually to arbitration and have their issues resolved independently on the Youstice resolution process. But if the retailers would not implement the decision issued or the agreement reached among the parties, there is a private enforcement mechanism, and at the moment the private enforcement mechanism which we employ is very simple. We will simply stop serving the retailer, and again this would apply globally. So that's Youstice is again was from the very beginning. It was designed as a globally applicable service. So, and that's why we also we decided that at the moment, at this stage, we will not have as part of our process an arbitration. Again, this may change, and as when we discussed before the recording, because we are just our intention this year is actually to enter U.S. market. We are considering to actually having also arbitration process as part of Youstice, but at the moment we do not have it, and we leave the parties freedom. If they wish, they can go to another dispute resolution. But at the same time, we believe that really for low-value disputes, which occur in everyday life and for which Youstice has been designed, there may not even be a need to enter into arbitration proceedings. But we shall see.
Okay. Yeah. So if I understand that, then by Youstice providing, in a sense, a third-party neutral, that person is going to, within a few hours, make a decision, and that's going to be the decision that Youstice, that neutral for Youstice provides. And the idea would be then that they'd be finished. If for whatever reason they don't get along, they can then go to the courts if they want to. But the idea would be that they would get it done. And what I also understand is that if you're talking about, say, a $50 item or some small dollar item, that could be the amount of money it costs just to file a complaint in court. So the retailer is going to lose a lot of money if they try to push it through court. So it's a reason for them to try to go and work with you. Does that sound correct?
Exactly, that's correct. And for the customers, this makes it makes them more independent and more engaged because it gives them a say in how their disputes are going to be resolved. So which makes them more loyal, and that may result in a win-win situation for the retailers as well as for the customers.
Right. So this is, really interesting work. What drew you to focus on, this problem of, online, problems between, people who purchase something and people who provide things online, this whole online dispute resolution. How'd you get focused on that as a problem?
Yeah. Well, the basic idea of Youstice came as a nature development of my previous projects in online dispute resolution. As you mentioned, I led teams which developed simple multilingual solutions for handling domain name disputes, international domain name disputes. And I saw that it is possible to build similar solutions for retail disputes, for very simple, low-value retail disputes. But also, I must admit that in principle, I have always been what my wife calls a difficult customer. So I unfortunately or fortunately, actually, I developed Youstice as a tool for persons who simply do not want just to let it go when they encounter something wrong in really small everyday issues, either with the service or with the purchase of low-value products. And Youstice is really a very simple, streamlined tool which can help them.
Yeah. No. Okay. That makes a lot of sense, and I think it's also, as you look at retailers, people now it's much easier to create a website, have PayPal or some other type of online payment included in that website, and then say I own 1,000 records and I want to go and I can sell them, and my records are $10. Youstice would be really useful for me because I could then use Youstice if I have a problem, because everything doesn't cost that much. And that was sort of my next question. What advice do you have for someone who's a merchant or someone who wants to sell something online? What advice do you have about how to deal with problems that come from online sales?
Yeah, I think that at the moment I can see a clear trend which have been emerging for some time, but now it's relatively very strong, and this is a need to engage the customers more, to make them feel more independent, and with respect to customer issues, also to let customers to have a say in how the disputes will be resolved. So, and it's quite funny. I will tell you a funny story. We are just after Christmas, and just after Christmas, I met with actually one of the owners of relatively very big European online market, and he told me that really they cannot have really customer issues because they have extremely sophisticated system which counts with everything, that everything is very systematic, logistical, etc. And there is because of such system, there is simply no possibility of an error or something like that. And then basically after a few days, I spoke with a friend who told me that he ordered for Christmas gifts from this very online market, and none of the gifts actually arrived on time, and so he would probably get the refund. But he was not satisfied just to get the refund. He would like to receive even more than that. For example, such a simple thing as an apology, or even a discount on the toys which he ordered, and get on time. So I think that there is still a lot of disconnect between the perceptions of the retailers and the customers. And so I think that it's very good to simply keep the customers more engaged, because at the moment it's if the customers do not have like real possibilities of resolving their issues to their satisfaction, what they do nowadays, they simply do to social media and criticize. And I think it's much better actually for the retailers to try to offer them some kind of resolution which would be win-win for both parties. And actually Youstice, we tried to develop Youstice as one of such tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you make a very good point, which is not only is the internet a place where you can sell things, but it's now a place where people can go and make comments or critiques about whatever is sold, or restaurants, or anything you want. Professors, if you're a teacher, they have a way of rating you, and so this is a way for the people who are selling to deal directly with the people who are buying and try to fix it before they write something through social media. And you sort of
exactly.
got some. Yeah, and that you sort of got to my next question, which was, we talk about this call to action, which is just a way for our listeners to get more involved, and you sort of touched on this a little bit before, but, what would you have as, if people, either you're a customer or you're a vendor or you're anybody else, what would you say would be your call to action for our listeners related to this topic?
Well, basically, I think that I would say to try to be as simple as possible. I think that it's very interesting that I read recently that despite the fact that companies spend billions of dollars on resolving customer complaints, still around 80% of reviews in social media are negative. And maybe it's just that now we have everything too complicated, and really it's everything is looked at from the strictly the retailer point of view, meaning just sorting out the claims and the issues, etc. Even though this is done in a fair way, and I'm sure that this is exactly the case, it would be very good to include the customer side more, to have them a bigger say. And again, basically, Youstice is one of the tools in this direction. I'm sure that we will see more tools like that. So my call to action, of course, apart of looking at Youstice website, would be to make everything more simple and user friendly, like to try to for the retailers to try actually to have resolving customer complaints as one of their key selling issues, as one of their key marketing messages. And that I think would include trying to engage their customers more, communicate with them directly, rather than waiting for negative reviews in social media. Because of course some negative reviews will always be because just of the nature of people. But many of the negative reviews, I believe, are simply because people do not know how to resolve their issues, and they are simply angry.
Yeah. So, how do folks get in contact with Youstice? How will folks get in contact with you? We have a link on our page, but for folks who are listening now, why don't you go ahead and give the Youstice email address and any other contact information that you would want to provide. So if people want to get in contact with you or learn more about online dispute resolution or Youstice, where would they go?
Yeah. So actually, our website is at www.youstice.com. We have our support portal, which is available at support.youstice.com, or anybody can send us an email to help@youstice.com. And of course, we would be very happy to receive any comments or questions and respond to them.
And just for folks, it's Youstice, right? Youstice.
Exactly. And thank you very much, Stephen. Thanks.
Yes. And so, Zbynek, thank you for being on our program. Any closing thoughts or comments for our listeners as we conclude this program that you would like to share with us as we close?
Well, again, thanks a lot for inviting me, and let's all have fun in 2015.
Indeed. And so with that, I thank you again, and we thank all of our listeners, and we look forward to having a wonderful 2015.
Thank you for listening to the Texas Conflict Coach. We hope you've enjoyed the program. You can find over 300 podcasts archived to listen at your own convenience at texasconflictcoach.com, or download the podcast at iTunes or Stitcher Radio. To learn about upcoming radio programs and resources, sign up for our monthly e-newsletter.